Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Droblyen, and I'm a community arts programmer for Arlington County Parks and Rec. And this is one of our many video demonstrations of some paintings. This is a travel paint and sip, so you can actually go and experience these paintings in person. This is an artist by the name of Tanner, and his painting here of the River Seine was taken in Paris, and he was one of those really great artists who he left America. He left the States. This is early 20th century, and he pretty much just was escaping racism and went to Paris and spent some time there. And he was just one of those breakthrough artists who I think you'll really appreciate, especially in person. His work is very thickly laid, but it almost looks like Whistler. I think that those guys were contemporaries, and you can see how thickly laid the paint was. This is my printed copy. It's never good to see a work through a printer. It's always better to go and actually experience and see how this work was painted. But it has some very thickly laid paint, and it's again just layer upon glazed layer, and that's what we're going to try to achieve today. We're going to take a little bit of allowances because we only have an hour and a half, so a lot of this detail in here that we have in the boats, we're going to just make some shadows and just kind of do our best with those areas. But the most unique part of this painting and the focal point is really these towers here and then that bridge. And there's some really nice color nuances in the background. So that's really what we're going to do to start. We're going to put a nice coat of a background color, which is going to be really what this color is back here in the very background. It's almost an atmospheric, almost like a violet. So we're going to do an underpainting of violet. And then hopefully when we start to build up these layers with acrylic, which is great because with acrylic, it dries really fast. So we can go layer on top of layer, but we're going to let some layers poke through. So we'll start with a violet color as our base, and then we're going to start to work the sky and the foreground and the water.
I'm muted. How do I do that?
So, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I have my palette here. Just to let you know the supplies I've got some paper towels. I've got my canvas here. This is just a treated canvas panel. It's 9 by 12. I have a palette of colors. Normally I just use my 3 colors here, but this is a Blick. All the paint we use in the county is Blick paints. You can get them online or even downtown. There's a Blick store, but we have a mixing set that we always use in our classes of this acrylic. And so we've got the regular red, yellow, and ultramarine blue, the 2 values, black and white. But then I really want to introduce this new color because we're going to get as we go along and you're joining my classes, I want to start introducing new colors to you so you can see how they work with each other. These 3 basic primaries work really great, but now I want to introduce a color called phthalo blue, and phthalo blue is more of a really cool, intense blue, which makes a really nice violet. So I'm going to use the phthalo blue today so you can see how that works. My water cup, I've got some brushes here, and I have a natural sponge that I'm going to use for my underpinning. So I'll let you get your things together. Just have a minute there to get everything together. And I'm going to get my palette ready. The very first color is going to be my underpainting color. So I'm going to mix my phthalo blue and my red together. Just a little bit is needed there. So do you see how nice that purple is? It's a nice, like nice plum. A little bit more red than that. Okay. So you can kind of see how that looks. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, and I'm going to add some water and thin it down a little bit and just coat my canvas. I know this seems very counterintuitive, but what's nice is that when you start to lay colors on top, it's gonna, this violet's gonna peek through, and it's gonna give the sense of more depth in your work. So I'm just using some water to kind of make it like a wash. When you use acrylic paint is a polymer, which means you're basically painting with plastic. And when you add water, you sort of break the structure of the paint so that you have a nice thin wash layer that's not as stable as your when you use it in full strength. So I'm just coating that there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just use my sponge, and I'm going to kind of carve out some of these areas of what I see. So for me, the darkest areas here that hold that violet is this band where the horizon line is. So I'm going to maintain that and kind of do some lifting up to just sort of like sketch in with my sponge what's going on. So actually, I think I'm going to flip this. I'm just going to take my sponge and just kind of like push around. So I'm really trying a different little method as I usually do. I'm just kind of lifting up and just giving a sense of where these things are going to lay. And because I've got my, I'm going to say, this is, if we were to take this picture, it's nice working from a photo source, but I mean, if we were actually on the banks of the Seine, it would be so much nicer, right? Because you would see all these nuanced colors. But you could see if I fold my photo reference in half, even roll it in fours, it gives you a sense of what where your things lie. So here you have our focal point really is up here. Our eye in this corner is an area of rest. And then we've got some action over here. So this, this horizon line actually helps compositionally to bring our eye this way and then bring it down to this part of the rest. So what I want to do is I kind of want to paint this in. So it's about halfway. Just kind of paint in where this horizon is. It's about right.
Hey, Jen, you have a question in the chat?
Mhm.
Let's see, hold on. It says the instructions said to prime with a salmon color. And if you want to unmute yourself to explain, I don't exactly know.
You know what I think that is I hope that your instructions, because Jim uses a salmon color base in his classes. So I don't know if that's probably what you're seeing, because that's Jim's class uses a salmon color.
Yeah, but I saw it too.
Oh,
I saw it too from the email we got yesterday.
oh,
This picture, so I made myself a salmon base.
oh, well, that's okay. I mean, we're gonna get there.
Okay. Okay, I'm already there.
Okay, well then I'll hurry. I'll hurry up and catch up to you then.
All right.
But okay, so here we go. So yeah, now I'm like, oh gosh, now we gotta hurry. Okay.
No, you don't. No, really, don't hurry.
Okay. Jeez. Okay, well, we're gonna let that kind of sit, and we'll let that sit for a minute, and then we'll start to work in. So you can see when you start to use a wash like that, it takes just a little bit longer for the paint to dry. So I'm just gonna blot this real quick so we can add that salmon color we want to do. But I'm kind of like, what I want to do is I kind of want to remove, just kind of remember, I'm just kind of seasoning this and just kind of getting the sense of what's going to be on top. So you see, just by adding my color, my base, I've already kind of given the structure of the painting. So let's move on. Boy, salmon on top of violet's going to be hard unless I really dry this. Okay, let me just do this. All right, so salmon here is essentially red and yellow to make an orange, but a little bit more red and a little bit of white. So this is still going to work well, but we're not going to use water then to break down this paint because we want it to kind of go and sit on top. This is what we call a happy accident. That's going to actually, we're going to see what happens here because I'm really excited that we have a base layer. You can kind of see when you start to play and put that down, it's going to mix a little bit with that purple, but that's okay because we're still in this is the atmosphere. This is in the background. So let me just get where you guys are real quick. So again, I'm not diluting that with water. I'm just filling that in. If you have a fully salmon colored canvas, then putting a layer of that violet in the foreground wouldn't hurt you. It's mixing a little bit, but that's okay. And the key with acrylic paint is it's all in layers. So little gentle layers after layer. Okay, and then we'll just go ahead and go into the water too. But I'm going to just bring that across, but there's some areas down here I kind of want to leave alone because there's that shoreline has some green in there. Let's bring that down. That violet kind of served us well, didn't it? So you can see my paint is kind of mixing a little bit, but that's okay. Because we're just going to put another layer over top of that. See, that kind of comes down. And I'm making sure that my brush strokes are horizontal because we want the water, if we were doing this, right, we were using that kind of motion, it wouldn't work with the water, right? Because on the surface, you're going to see your eye visually is going to be confused by what this brush work would do versus what this would do. If you keep your, when you're working with water, you want to keep every brush stroke horizontal. Unless, of course, you have like choppy waves and stuff, then that's a whole nother situation, but okay. That kind of helped. All right, so if you guys have your salmon colored canvas, adding a little bit of violet like we did in the beginning seems to work kind of well. So we're letting some of the areas poke through. That's great. All right, and if you can see here, like I said, that this area here is that there's that violet that's in here, and then there's a little bit of blue. So we're going to try to get that in before we do the bridge, because we're working very in the back towards the front. So we have to work what's going on in the very back and then incrementally work towards the foreground. So what I'm going to do here is we've got this color. It's like this softer blue kind of tone. So I'm mixing in a little bit of that ultramarine, and it's a little bit violet. So I'm going to go in. You see how that makes a little bit of a different color? And I'm just going to kind of repaint in my horizon line. And with my brush, I'm going to just kind of pepper in where these things are. So again, this those towers are in that top right-hand quadrant. So if I kind of imagine where that would be, it would start about here. Just to kind of lay them in. So I can work on them and get them darker as we go. And there's a little triangle there. And that goes up. And then this comes down. So I'm kind of bringing down some dark colors because it's only going to get darker from there. So just dabbing this in, get a sense where all this stuff is. So for 20 minutes, we got a lot accomplished, right? We got pretty good structure of where things lie. And putting a nice light layer down so that things can kind of dry quick. Except for this putting on top of the salmon layer is still a little bit wet. But that's okay, we're gonna just keep building. Okay. So because we've got some areas here that are dry, let's go ahead and plug in this shoreline. It's a little bit hard to see, but that's kind of like a green shoreline there. And then there's some indicators of some, I think they're 2 houseboats. So what I want to do is I kind of want to mix a dark green. I'll use that phthalo. So you mix your hue first, and then you add your colors to make it darker. One way to make green darker is to add its complement. So I added a little bit of red there. And I'm just going to kind of put this in. And I can imagine the shore is probably, because I can't really see what's happening in there, I can only imagine that that's flat. That grass is flat. So I'm going to add a little bit more purple. Remember when you add straight black, there's not a lot of black in nature, just straight black. So you kind of almost have to manufacture it. You have to make it with a bunch of colors, and then really only use the black, you know, when it comes down to like really working and pushing a contrast. Really save the use of black to the very end. So I'm going to let that sit and dry for a little bit. And then, because it looks like there's a little bit of green in there, and mix a sort of like a brown. I'm adding red in there. I'm just going to show where this guy lives, this boat. It comes up like this. Just to show where this guy is. Again, we're going to get darker, but just to kind of have a sense of where these things are as we continue to build the structure of the scene. And I'm sure there's a lot of things happening in there that I can't see right now. Okay. Yeah, it's really hard to see. I'm trying to bring the light a little bit better. It looks like we've got some greenery up there too. So we're going to put that in. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush just to do that. So it kind of comes into this area here. Make it a little bit darker. And then adding yellow. That was too much yellow. Darken that up. Okay. And just kind of seeing where all this stuff is happening. Oh, that's way too light, isn't it? Well, we'll get darker anyway. Another layer. And there's something going on here before where this bridge is. There's a little bit of stuff happening there. And then where this guy, those towers were, looks like there's some stuff happening where this boat starts. So just kind of getting this sense of what this shape of this boat is. And that's going to be a triangle there that comes down. So that's all going to get darker. It comes down like this. So it kind of helps too to see like the negative space. So you have like these dark positive shapes here. So the negative space for me is what's happening in this water. So I'm trying to replicate the shape of that, sort of like a, I don't know, looks like kind of a triangle, but then it has a little, it's a triangle here, but then there's a square behind it. So I kind of want to replicate that. You can kind of see there's that, and then there's the thing that comes up. And then I just want to make sure that I'm right on this, because this kind of comes and feeds down. So we'll build that up too. All right, well, it looks like we've got a pretty good situation happening in the sky. So now we can go in with a lighter layer. So I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to mix a lighter layer of this. We've got that salmon color, but now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit more of the yellow and the white. Because you can see right there, like some of the brushwork in there, you can see how thick that's going to be, and we can replicate that just by adding more and more layers. So I'm going to add a light yellow, mix it with a tiny bit of red, sort of warm it up a little bit. And the brushwork for this, you can kind of see there's stuff peeking through, so we don't want to do too much, but you can kind of see he uses sort of like a zigzaggy, kind of like haphazard kind of stroke. So we're going to do that same thing. Ooh, that's a little bright. Let's do add a little bit of its, a little bit of blue to calm that down a little bit. Yeah. So it's more like a haphazard kind of stroke. And like I said, let some areas peek through. That's the beauty of your underpainting. And as you get towards that horizon line, you want to sort of let this top color fade a little bit, because you don't want to lose that salmon color that you have on underneath. So just kind of let the paint kind of dry up on the brush, so you have a little bit more of a dry brush kind of situation. And then slowly carve out where those towers are. So again, I haven't even done anything extra with water. I'm just kind of using my dry brush to kind of plug this in. And again, using almost like a cross X's kind of brushwork. Kind of indicate where these things are. And then maybe even put some of this. A little bit in the water here. Again, just using that dry brush, just making the difference. If you make too much of a mark, you can always just take a wet paper towel and blot it out. But for the most part, we're just kind of indicating right now. We're still in the building the structure. So adding a little bit more up here. Both those towers, it's a little more yellow. If you have a better printout than I do, it is a little bit more yellow. So what's nice too is we've got a nice complement going between like the violet and the yellow. And as we deepen this and start to add in more details, having this in already in place is going to make it so much easier. Because all that work is done for us. Nice, shorter. Okay. Again, we got some stuff in there. I'm just using the dry brush. Okay. So now we're going to start to get, because we have this, we have everything in place now. So what we want to do is we now want to start to put in these deeper colors, and we want to put in this bridge, and we want to sort of redefine what's going on in these towers here. And I think that has that's a little, I see a little spire there, so we'll have to put that in too. But there's some dark trees and stuff here. So let's do a little bit work. Now you have to touch test to make sure everything's dry enough. But I'm gonna do, let's see, that violet that I worked in, I have a little bit of that left. So I'm gonna put in a little bit of that ultramarine blue. Let me see what I got. That's nice. And I'm just gonna sort of retouch this area here. A little more blue, I think. And again, I'm trying to keep my brush work so that we want to kind of keep it atmospheric and kind of nebulous. We don't really want to have any like really, really defining strokes. So I'm just kind of like doing little sort of almost like blobs. And then we've got this one here. See how soft that is. And then these are going to be the tough ones here. So I might switch to even a smaller brush for this part. Ooh, it's a good thing I had my coffee. Again, we're going to further define that in a bit, but just to kind of indicate what this is and what the shape is. I'm going in with another layer of sky that's going to clean that up. Remember, you want to be really delicate here because this is the focal point, right? This is one of those things that's going to be the best part about your painting is these towers. So you really want to take your time on this part. This little bump out. I also want to make sure these little guys are straight. So I'm going to do just one quick thing. I'm just going to take and turn it so I can make straighter lines just by turning my painting. Whatever's most comfortable for you. It may not be your thing, but for me, I need to turn it so I can make sure I get a straight line. At the top here. Okay. Move it down a little bit. And again, I'm not being too crazy about what's inside of that, but I want to make sure that the shape there at least is tight because that's our focal point. Okay. Go back around. We'll clean that up in the next time that we go through the sky. But now I'm just going to darken up what I've got in this area here now too. Just go in and there's even, so underneath the bridge, there's that blue color. So I'm just taking a little bit of blue green and I'm kind of taking out the brightness of that violet. But I'm not getting rid of it entirely. I'm letting some areas peek through. Because that bridge is going to be even darker than what we're doing now. I've got a little thing here. And it kind of goes up. Right. And I think we can do a little bit more here with the bridge, but I think that bridge color and these darker darks are what's going to make this really pop. So there is a little bit of brown that's happening in here that I also want to put in. It looks like a warmish, like a burnt sienna kind of color. We'll get a little bit close, but I'm just going to take and mix a brown. And brown is really just the three primaries. So you mix the red, the yellow, and the blue together to get a pretty decent brown. And that brown is starting to, that'll help to form our bridge here. It's just a little bit. And then I think we can probably put some brown in here too. And I think that's going to help to darken up. I use a darker blue. Sort of like a light color of this brown. That's going to help to sort of darken up that green a little bit. Again, using horizontal strokes. And it looks like we could probably even do that in here. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of that brown in this area here where this boat is to kind of further indicate. Again, we're just gonna we'll get darker as we go. A little bit more purple in there too. So let's do a little bit of a better brown. I'm adding a little bit of that phthalo blue to kind of darken it up a little. And that water is a little choppy, so. And then all this stuff that's going on back here, I can't identify. Go. And there's like a little flag thing that actually what I'm going to do first is that shadow. Let's see if that shadow can work just by dragging down that color. And not even reloading my brush, just using the paint that I've got on as a dry brush. That comes up like this. A little straighter than that though. With that in the next pass. Okay, and then it looks like we might be in a good place to put that bridge in, but I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to do that color I was just playing with. So that brown, I'm going to remix it. And we're going to put that bridge in. So again, I'm going to turn this a little bit because I want to be able to get a nice straight line. And we know that bridge is coming all the way in front of all of these things. So
Hi.
Just a little bit darker. So I'm just going to mix that. I'm going to use just the red and the phthalo straight, and that's going to help to darken it up. And then that comes down into a pretty straight. And then it goes up into an arch. Not yet. Straight. And comes down about there. Straight line. And then I can imagine it just goes up there. It just gets really dark up there, so I'm just not gonna mess with it. I want to just make sure that that looks like it's going into some dark areas there. Yeah, so if you can kind of see what I did there. And we're going to soften all that too, but right now we kind of have a really good sense of where that bridge is. And because we put that dark in there, now we've got to darken up what's in the foreground, because that bridge is darker than currently what this is. So at this point, here's where we can start to use a little bit of the black. So I'm going to take in that violet that I just did for the bridge. I'm going to just warm it up a little bit with a tiny touch of yellow. Now I just see how much darker I can get this here. And that's too blue, so I'm going to add a little bit of red. With that red on there on top, it's going to mix with that green that we had underneath. I'm going to clean out that edge. Kind of show where this, I don't even know what's happening on that boat. But you know what? That's one of those things where you can invent it. You can decide, okay, well, you know what? There might be a mast in there. But it's not supposed to make sense, right? Because as long as it's dark and it looks kind of like the shape of a boat, you've succeeded. This is one of the tricks that Whistler had, actually, was he had these paintings called nocturne paintings, which made critics really upset with him because he had indications of things, but you couldn't identify what those things were. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and darken that up too. So you see, just by adding layers, you can get darker and darker without using black. We haven't touched black at all. And again, I'm just sort of placing this all in. Something there, I don't know what that is. We haven't played with the sky in a while, so let's go ahead and do that, and we'll do some stuff in the water. I'm gonna take another brush. There's a little layer of blue there. So let's kind of mix up we've got our peach here. Let's add a little bit of that color that we were just using. A little bit of white to kind of make it a little bit of a like a greeny kind of color. Put it over our peach. That's good. And get some of that here. It's a little darker in the background, but we're not going to do that yet. But add a little couple layers of that color. It's gonna kind of help it. And there's a shadow here that we want to put in too. That was from, let me take that smaller brush. So that color that we just mixed is pretty good for this too. Maybe a little bit bluer. And it's going to be a little bit darker. Make the peach, add the blue. Okay. So you can kind of see it kind of lives underneath this part of the bridge. How does that work? That comes under like this actually. I need to bring that down a little bit. We'll put some of that color back in. Put that color. Actually going to mix a little bit. I have to cheat a little bit, but bring that down. There we go. I always take advantage of the paint that's on your brush. Like, you know, if you see a color that needs to go somewhere else, put it somewhere else. So yeah, let's go back in with the sky because we can bring some of that color down too. So I want to mix again. That salmon color is a good color. So that's just red, yellow, and some white. And this time we're going to go in with a little bit more intentional brushwork that's going to be a little thicker. We're not doing too much. We are going to clean up some of our lines that are up there in the sky and along that horizon line. You can even add a couple marks of the maybe a little too much, but lighten that up a little. Kind of add some nice little something there. We do it a little lighter. Go. Okay, and then I want to make it a little bit darker around where all those buildings and stuff are. I'm just going to get a little bit darker, less white. And I'm going to go in with a smaller brush. I just destroyed that color. Okay, let's try that one more time. So I'm going to mix red, yellow, white, not too much white. When that touched the black. No, no, no. Okay, kind of liking that, I think. So there we go. And again, I'm just going in maybe a little bit more white. Okay, and I'm cleaning up these edges a little bit and then having it kind of blend into the sky. It's a little lighter, isn't it? In the middle there. Just taking a tiny brush and cleaning that up a little bit. They look like little happy people back there. Monsters or something, I don't know. Okay. And again, it's like looking at your brushwork, because that's the beauty of this painting, is having some nice soft brushwork. Cleaning that up a little bit. So you see how that violet just kind of like comes through, makes a nice little, I mean, that gives you like an atmospheric quality, because that purple always pushes things back. So let me now start to clean up what I've got here in the water. We've got some interesting brushwork here. It's light. Just a couple taps of the light color there. There's a couple little bits and pieces here in the water. And then we've got in this background here, we've got this color, and it's almost like that. You mix a little bit of that. That was that peach with a little bit of green in there. A little bit of green, a little bit of blue. And we're just gonna kind of clean this area up a little. now that I'm looking at that, that's a little more purple, isn't it? That's true. Yeah, I think that's better. Just softening that up a little bit. Again, that dark. Okay. We're getting there. I'm going to do like a unifier. What I mean by a unifier is, you see, this is all, we've kind of put in everything we needed to, but now I want to put another wash over this at the end to kind of unify this horizon line and then the stuff that goes above it, because there's some different tones in there that I'm not liking, in the sense that they're all at the same, they're in the same space in the background. So I kind of want to unify those colors together, so that that bridge kind of pops a little bit more forward. And then I guess we can put the sail in. And then I also want to put in some of these other, before I do that, I want to make sure I put in some of these really tiny little spires and stuff that we got going on in there, to show that it indicates that it is kind of like a little city. And again, I'm going to turn the canvas, because I can really get a straight line that way. I'm going to mix up the purple here. So just red and blue. And just put in these little spires, little tiny details. And there's something up here. So it's those little tiny details that are going to make some interesting and nice sort of atmosphere. See, when you turn that around, see how much different that looks. All right. This bridge is pretty much dry, but I want to add a little bit more. So now that we've added that darker, it was a really dark, it was on top of the violet, so that helps to darken that even more. But I want to even go one more layer. So I'm going to make this one another sort of purple layer. So I'm adding red. I'm going to use that phthalo blue. Tiny bit of yellow. Kind of bring it to them to a warmer side, and then just kind of repaint in now that this is dry.
Do you say the colors again that you're making in this sort of wash? Are you making it like a wash?
No, well, I will for when I unify this top layer.
Oh, okay, so you're not there at the unifier yet.
I'm not at the unifier step yet. No, this is
Okay.
right now. I'm going to continue to darken up my bridge.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't want to be heavy handed with that because now that we are getting towards the end, if you don't want to get this part wet and then accidentally pull it up with your brush. So try to make it as thin as you can.
Okay.
And again, this situation over here with this boat. I have no idea what's going on there. But the sail in. Okay. So yeah, we're just kind of darkening what we got in here. Because we can't see any of that stuff in there. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to take that same brush. I just wiped it, but I'm going to put a little bit of a light. This thing would probably work. That peach again. It might work for this sail thing that we got going on. There's a little bit than that. It comes up. I'm just going to paint that in. That's dark. So I need to make an adjustment as we go. I don't even know where to begin with this boat. Let's see here. I'm gonna make sure what color is on my brush before I start messing around. Okay. So, and now you can get a little bit thicker with your brush work. So if you have a little bit more loaded on your brush, that's great, because that's what this is all about. If you had gel medium, you can use some gel medium to thicken up your stuff. But I'm kind of waiting for this bridge to dry so I can go over with this layer. We got 18 minutes. The things we can do in 18 minutes that will help is we can now add some really dark colors. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black. And be really strategic here, because again, that's going to be your darkest dark. And clean up your bridge. And this guy kind of comes down. It's a little bit darker. I don't know what's going on there. Looks like we've got something. I guess it looks kind of like a houseboat back there. So I'm just gonna make that darker. Kind of indicate that there's something there. See how just by adding that last bit of value, that's going to help, like I said, bring forward whatever's going on here. Not really dark green. Because I've got a little bit left on the brush, it's dry brush, I'm just going to kind of wipe that and add a little bit of value there too. All right, and I've got my bigger brush, and I'm just going to sort of pick a tone that I like that's a little bit lighter, because now we want to sort of finish it off. We want to add some brush work like Tanner did. Kind of is a little bit thicker and kind of is expressive. It can just sit on top. So just, oh, a little bit too much of that color. Yeah. And just, again, just put in some expressive marks. To kind of give it some body in the foreground. And going in horizontal. And then adding, like I said, those crosshatch marks in the sky. But I'm not getting too close to that. Remember, we're doing still that unifier, so don't get too close to your horizon line. All right, so my unifier is going to be another wash, okay? And what it is that I want to lighten this up a little bit to show it that it's on the same plane. So I'm going to take that light color, add a little bit of water. And I'm just going to kind of brush over this area here and then wipe it off. You know, it seems really counterproductive, but this is going to make a big difference. So I'm putting it down and then I'm quickly wiping it off. I'm just dabbing it. Do you see, just by doing that, you kind of connected that atmosphere together. So yeah, so that I think I would probably rework these guys because now they just look like ghosts to me. So
Okay.
but I would rework those and then probably do it, like I said, another unifier. But you can kind of see, like, look how that brought everything together.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
It really did.
What
Mhm.
a difference.
So
That's what you meant by the unifier.
mhm. Yeah,
Wow.
you put
Uh,
on like a wash, but it's pigment. It's like a 1-to-1 pigment to, to paint to water, and then
Oh.
you put it in the places where you want to unify it, and then just buff it out.
Mhm.
Wow.
So Jen, you had talked about the unifier and then you went on and did some other things like in the water. So
Mhm.
that was not a unifier, right? I mean, that was just adding more lighter color to the water in a
Yeah,
thicker,
and then
paint,
thicker paint.
right?
Yep.
Hmm. Nice. Wow. It's amazing how you can make something that when I print it out, it looks like nothing. And then, and then look what you've done. I mean,
Absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. So, once again, I just watched and took notes, but you really motivated me to do this. I mean, it's really amazing.
It's great. Oh, I'm so glad. And it's only an hour and a half, right? So
Well, look
you
what
take
you did.
Oh, but
Yeah.
I mean, like, just in general, so you could take an hour and a half of your time and do something, and if you don't
Mhm.
like it, you can just start over. That's the beauty of acrylic, is you could just take it and you can paint over it or do whatever because it's yours.
Well, I do have some that I started and didn't finish and don't care for. So what do you paint over it with?
So you can you can take gesso, and gesso is pretty much, a primer. So you can go
Yeah.
right over it with another coat of gesso and then just sand it down and then off you go.
So you don't paint over it with a color like white.
You can paint over it with white. I mean, the thing is that you want to decide how much texture is under the painting, right? Before you paint over it, you have to think about what kind of texture you've got under there already. Because
Mhm.
it might frustrate you adding white to the top of that paint, that painting, and then having to contend with what was underneath as the texture for the new
Mm.
thing. So I would use gesso and then just sand it down to the way that you want it texture wise. Or if you wanted to just paint over it white, then I would just go over with some sandpaper on top of your acrylic, just to kind of sand it down a little bit before you
Mhm.
put the white paint over it and start again.
Mhm.
Gesso
Okay.
is something you buy. It's liquid.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a liquid primer.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's called gesso, Gesso.
I
But
did
then
buy
you,
some and I thought
yeah.
it was clear. Is it not clear?
You can get them in different colors. You can get them clear,
Oh.
you can get them white, you can get them black.
So you're talking about a clear or a white gesso?
Yeah,
To-
or black. You can get black gesso, and that's always fun too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you get clear or white. I
It
mean, you're gonna sand it, so if you sand it, that's going to allow for absorption of your new,
Right.
right?
That the
Yeah.
point of sanding is to allow for absorption?
No, the point of sanding
no.
is to just level the texture.
Does it matter?
No, I mean, like I said, if you like the texture of what you
Oh.
had before, then it wouldn't
Mhm.
matter.
But
But
then
if
what's the difference between using white and clear?
there's really no difference except
Okay.
for if you're using clear that I would say if you're using clear, you like whatever you're preparing to paint on. You know, you like the, whatever, if it's wood or if it's got some neat, interesting like wood grain or it's got some interesting color, that you want to preserve for your painting
Oh.
that will go on top.
I
Then
hate
that's
to interrupt, but I gotta run.
oh,
Okay.
all right.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, but
Thank
Jen, one more
Yeah.
thing. So
Thank
you
you.
could just
Bye.
put a gesso down. Bye. You could just put a gesso down, and could you then just use a paint that you would want to use for your underpainting?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Gesso really just prepares the surface for paint. That's all it
Okay.
does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's gonna hide what you had on there before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Jen,
Yes.
Jen, thank you so much. I mean, I just love what you do, and you're
Oh.
just great. So thank you so much.
Oh, you guys warm my heart. That's why you guys make me really love what I do. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good.
Well, you guys
Okay.
have a great afternoon and a great
Oh,
weekend.
Jen, and one more thing. Thank you so much for having this be recorded. It's just, it's just wonderful. So just thank you for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, and doing that going forward, I think is going to be great because we would love to have a bank of, videos and stuff that you guys can refer back to.
Yeah,
it's because you go so fast.
you do such great things. You would want them to be archived,
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think there was a privacy thing that I think the county was, I'm not sure, Lika could probably speak a little bit more on that, but I think there was a privacy situation there where, we couldn't show names of who was on the call, but I think that's been sorted out to some degree.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure
we're-
no one would really
And we're
matter.
able to spotlight, and what happened was also, Zoom put in a practice where it informs people that they are being recorded. So versus before, you can record and people didn't even know. And what we needed to do on our end, 55 plus, is put in a mechanism to inform people, because some people might not want it. So that's the reason why you got the email from Sheila that stated about it was going to be recorded. And then Zoom also has it where, when it's recording, it tells you. So we're trying to build our library. So because there's a lot of people who can't participate during the time set as well. So this way we have our stuff uploaded to the YouTube channel and people are able to see it then. So that's where we're
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. Well, I just think the quality of the students' work will go up because, we can look back.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you
Anyway,
all, if you have more questions, and if you finish your painting and you want to send me an email copy, that will be great. I like to share, especially what Jen and Jim do for us. Is great for us to show what quality of work people are able to produce on their end.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, and we love to showcase it too. We send everything up
we show off.
because we want to keep them running. So that's
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, you all have a great one. Thank you, Jen, for hopping back on.
all right, you all. You have a great afternoon, great weekend. And
You
I'll
the
see you guys again.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye.